You don't spiral in front of people. You do it quietly, internally, invisibly. On the outside, you appear calm, composed, rational. But inside, your mind never stops moving. You replay conversations long after they end. You rehearse future scenarios that may never happen. You analyze tone, pauses, facial expressions. Not because you're dramatic, but because you're vigilant. At night, when the world finally goes quiet, your mind gets louder. This isn't anxiety in the way people usually describe it, and it's not panic. It's not chaos, it's control. And here's the paradox that defines your life. The thinking that once kept you safe is now the thing slowly exhausting you. You didn't become this way because you're weak. You became this way because at some point, being mentally prepared felt safer than being emotionally exposed. So you learned to stay ahead of the moment, to anticipate instead of react, to calculate instead of feel. Silence became your shield. Thinking became your armor. But armor is heavy, and the longer you wear it, the harder it becomes to rest. Definition and psychological authority. People who overthink in silence are not indecisive. They are hyper-attuned. Psychology has names for this pattern, and none of them are accidental. Hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is a nervous system state where the brain is constantly scanning for threat. Not loud threats, subtle ones. Tone shifts, disappointment, disapproval, emotional withdrawal. This often develops in environments where safety was unpredictable, where you had to notice everything because no one explained anything. Your brain learned, if I stay alert, I can prevent pain. So now your mind never fully stands down. Emotional neglect schema. Emotional neglect doesn't mean abuse. It means your inner world wasn't mirrored, validated, or explored. So instead of being taught what you feel, you were taught to figure it out alone. Over time, you internalize this belief. My emotions are my responsibility and my burden. That creates a private emotional life where everything is processed internally, quietly, endlessly. Default mode, network overactivation. Neuroscience shows that overthinkers often have an overactive default mode network, the brain system responsible for self-referential thought. This network is active when you replay the past, simulate the future, judge yourself, and analyze meaning. Silence gives this network unlimited space. So your mind becomes a closed-loop system, thinking about thinking, without external interruption. This isn't intelligence. It's overfunctioning for emotional safety, emotional cost, and philosophical weight. Carl Jung once wrote, "What you resist persists." But what happens when what you resist is rest? The emotional cost of silent overthinking is not visible burnout. It's invisible grief. Grief for spontaneity, ease, presence, being unguarded. You sacrifice authenticity for preparedness. You sacrifice rest for readiness. You sacrifice expression for control. And the core fear underneath it all is simple. If I stop monitoring, something will go wrong, and I'll be blamed. So even in safe moments, your body doesn't stand down. You struggle with small things, enjoying compliments, letting conversations end without analysis, feeling satisfied instead of relieved. Silence becomes crowded. You are never fully here. You are always slightly ahead, watching yourself from the outside. This is the tragedy. You survive everything, but you don't always live inside it. Adult manifestation and the unlearning process. This pattern doesn't disappear with age. It evolves. You might recognize yourself here. Relationships. You overanalyze texts. You replay arguments silently. You notice emotional shifts before others do, but rarely ask about them. You become emotionally self-sufficient to avoid burdening anyone. Career. You prepare excessively. You anticipate mistakes before they happen. You struggle to feel accomplished because your mind immediately moves to what's next. Self-worth. Your value becomes tied to foresight. Being unprepared feels like failure. Rest feels undeserved. Boundaries. You struggle to set them because you already adjust internally. You adapt instead of asking. You overfunction to avoid conflict. Emotional regulation. You don't explode. You compress. Feelings are delayed, stored, postponed, until they leak out as exhaustion. Internal identity. You don't know who you are without thinking. Silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels unsafe. These are not personality traits. They are coping mechanisms that outlived their purpose. Unlearning begins not by stopping thoughts, but by witnessing them without obeying them. Healing, conclusion, and affirmation. Healing for silent overthinkers is not about forcing calm. It's about teaching the nervous system that the present moment is survivable. Real healing paths include inner child reparenting, learning to offer reassurance internally instead of analysis, replacing "what if" with "I've got you." Shadow work, facing the fear of being unprepared, letting yourself be imperfect, and seeing that nothing collapses. Nervous system regulation, breath work, somatic grounding, interrupting thought loops with body awareness, choosing softness over survival. Not every moment needs to be optimized. Not every outcome needs anticipation. As philosopher Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Try to love the questions themselves. You don't need to eliminate thinking. You need to expand safety beyond it. The goal is not to be fixed. It is to become whole." If this resonated, share it with someone who lives inside their mind. And if you want more work like this, subscribe. Not for answers, but for deeper questions. You are not broken. You were just prepared for a world that no longer exists. Somatic grounding, interrupting thought loops with body awareness. Choosing softness over survival. Not every moment needs to be optimized. Not every outcome needs anticipation. As philosopher Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Try to love the questions themselves. You don't need to eliminate thinking. You need to expand safety beyond it. The goal is not to be fixed. It is to become whole." If this resonated, share it with someone who lives inside their mind. And if you want more work like this, subscribe. Not for answers, but for deeper questions. You are not broken. You were just prepared for a world that no longer exists.